On a Detroit-bound plane has now interrupted President Obama's Hawaiian vacation twice in 3 days. He was notified about today's disturbance about an hour and a half after the flight landed. We're told the commander-in-chief asked officials to keep up the heightened security measures. But critics are asking, is that really enough? Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry traveling with the president. Ed, how much can the president do from Honolulu?
Well, Drew, he can stay in the loop with some classified briefings from his staff, and he also put his Homeland Security Secretary out there on the Sunday talk show circuit, where she basically declared that the suspect was not part of some larger plot. But there are still a lot of unanswered questions about whether the Obama administration could have done more to snuff out this threat much sooner.
The president's Homeland Security Secretary tried her best to reassure the American public by shifting focus to what happened after the attempted terror attack in Detroit on Christmas Day.
One thing I'd like to point out is that the system worked. Everybody played an important role here. The passengers and crew of the flight took appropriate action. Within literally an hour to 90 minutes of the incident occurring, all 128 flights in the air had been notified to take some special measures in light of what had occurred on the Northwest Airlines flight.
But Senator Joe Lieberman, chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, said the problem is the system did not work before the detonation.
The truth is, he was able to break through all of our Homeland Security. If it was not for our good fortune, grace of God, that the explosive did not go off, 300 people and many more on the ground probably in Michigan would have been killed.
Pressed on how the suspect was able to get explosive chemicals onto the flight from Amsterdam, Secretary Janet Napolitano said on CNN's State of the Union the president has ordered a review, but so far there's no evidence of improper screening.
If it was properly screened and he got on anyway with that, it doesn't feel that safe.
Well, you know, it should. This was one individual, literally thousands that fly on thousands of flights every year, and he was stopped before any damage could be done, and now the forensics are analyzing, well, what actually could have been done with whatever substance he had and whatever amount.
But all it takes is one individual, and Republicans are demanding to know how Umar Farouk Abdul-Muttalib was allowed on the plane, just weeks after his father visited the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria to express concern about his son's ties to radicals.
It's amazing to me that an individual like this, who is sending out so many signals, could end up getting on a plane going to the U.S.
Administration officials tell CNN after the father's visit to the embassy, Abdul-Muttalib's name was placed into a broad database of suspected terrorists. But there was insufficient evidence to put him on either a no-fly list or subject him to secondary screening, which might have detected the explosives.
He was on a general list of over 500,000 people. Everybody had access to it, but there was not the kind of credible information in the sense of derogatory information that would move him up that list.
Now, the secretary added that in addition to the first investigation into how the suspect got those explosives onto the plane, the president has now ordered a second review into watch list procedures to see whether they need to be updated to help prevent terror attacks. Drew?
Ed, after watching the secretary's performance on Candy Crowley's show this morning, I have to ask you, she heads a $50 billion security agency and says the system worked, apparently because passengers intervened and prevented this. Is this what the system relies on?
It was pretty shocking to hear the system work. She said that on some other programs as well, that in one program she said it worked like clockwork. It didn't really seem to work that way when you dial it back about what happened before that flight took off. I think very clearly this administration is trying to shift the focus to what happened once you know, the plane was landing and as you say, the passengers jumped in. But that might not give the American flying public a lot of reassurances about what the TSA, what the Department of Homeland Security is doing. Now, in fairness, White House officials stress she was only talking about the tail end of all of this, and they acknowledge that they're now reviewing what happened beforehand. But as you note, this is raising a lot of questions about what the administration could have done much sooner in this process to snuff this out. There's a lot that's still unanswered.
Well, from your vantage point, and I don't mean to put you on the spot and get you to comment on the news, but just from your own reporting, is there any kind of outrage from the administration officials that you've been able to talk to that this was allowed to happen, that this guy whose name was on a list was not screened properly or was not given a secondary screening?
You know, it's a good question, and I don't feel on the spot. What's interesting is that I've gotten just the opposite from White House officials. Instead of, you know, expressing outrage about how this guy got on the plane, they've sort of been outraged by some of the questions about all of this and basically saying, look, this is a really big list of terrorists we're watching. You can't scrutinize every last one just because they do one thing doesn't mean that you keep them off the plane. And in fairness, there is some of that that we have to note. I mean, as the administration points out, 550,000 suspected terrorists on a list. To investigate every last one of them would take thousands and thousands of FBI agents. But on the other hand, I am surprised that they're not expressing more outrage about how did this guy get on the plane? I mean, it seems to be a fundamental question. And instead of expressing outrage herself, for example, Secretary Napolitano, instead today she kept trying to highlight the positive. And I think that's why there's going to be a lot of tough questions on Capitol Hill as soon as Congress comes back in January, Drew.
Yeah, there does seem to be a matter-of-factness about the fact this guy got on board with what was, indeed, an explosive device.
Absolutely.
Ed Henry from Honolulu. Ed, thank you very much.